You find an old personnel record. It lists your MOS, a deployment, and years of hard work in uniform. Your first thought might be, that proves my claim. Your second might be, this old paperwork is useless. Both reactions can lead you off track. The record may be important, but for a more specific reason. It may help show what your service looked like when certain duties occurred and what questions deserve a closer look. It does not automatically answer every medical question about a condition you have today. Your MOS is context. It is not by itself proof.
Welcome to the Veteran Benefits Reset Podcast, where we help veterans and their families better understand the VA disability benefits process, one step at a time. I'm your host, Cameron Burrell, a U.S. Army veteran and founder of VetBiz Media. Whether you are filing for the first time, revisiting an older decision, or helping a family member sort through records, today's conversation is about using military personnel documents wisely. Veteran to veteran, this is facts of frustration and education before action.
We are going to work with one simple test throughout the episode. Ask, what does this document confirm? What does it only suggest? And what question does it leave open? That test can keep a review grounded. A separation document might confirm dates of service. An assignment record might confirm a unit or duty location. A job title might suggest a type of work, but leave the daily details unclear. Then medical records and other evidence address a different part of the picture. A current diagnosis, symptoms, treatment, limitations, and potentially the relationship between those facts and service. This is general education, not legal or medical advice, and every veteran's circumstances are different.
Start with the documents that anchor time. Look at separation paperwork, assignment dates, unit history, training records, and duty descriptions. Then, look for records that add texture, performance evaluations, qualifications, awards, and other personnel documents. One record may tell you where you were. Another may tell you what the assignment involved. A third may help show when your role changed. Taken together, those documents can create a clearer picture of your service life.
But do not treat every document as if it carries the same meaning. An MOS code can identify an occupational specialty. It may not describe every task you performed. A deployment record can establish that you were in a particular region during a particular period. It may not document every event or exposure there. A performance evaluation may mention responsibilities or demanding conditions. It may not record every symptom you experienced. And an award can confirm service or participation, but it is not a medical record.
Imagine a record that says vehicle mechanic, that confirms an occupational specialty. It does not tell us whether you spent every day lifting transmissions, how often you worked overhead, whether you used a particular tool, or whether one specific incident occurred. Those details might come from duty records, personal statements, treatment notes, or other evidence. They should not be pulled from the job label simply because the label seems to fit the story. The document tells us something real. We just have to be precise about what that something is.
So what happens when the paperwork looks impressive, but still leaves the central question unanswered? That is where many veterans get frustrated. A personnel record can help establish the setting of service, the duty, the unit, the location, the dates, or the general working conditions. A current diagnosis, symptoms, treatment history, and functional limitations involve another part of the picture. Whether a current condition is related to service may require medical evidence and qualified professional evaluation. Personnel records can support the factual timeline, but they usually can't answer every medical or adjudicative question by themselves.
Here is a general example. Imagine a former vehicle mechanic whose records show an assignment to a transportation unit from 2004 through 2007. The paperwork confirms the unit and the dates. The veteran remembers long shifts and lifting heavy components, but does not remember the exact date symptoms began. Years later, treatment records document back pain and limits on lifting. That is not a guaranteed outcome. It is a better organized set of facts and questions.
Now, apply the three-part test. What does the personnel record confirm? It confirms the assignment and the time period. What does it suggest? It may suggest the kind of work the veteran performed, especially when other records describe the duties. What question remains open? When did the symptoms begin? How did they progress? And what evidence addresses the current condition? That is a much stronger review than simply saying, I was a mechanic, so the record proves the cause.
That is where a timeline earns its keep. You can make one on paper, in a spreadsheet, or in a simple document. Use 4 columns. First, the service fact. Second, the date or best available date range. Third, the symptom, event, or circumstance you personally remember. Fourth, later medical or functional information, with the source if you know it.
For example, your first line might say, assigned to a transportation unit, approximately 2004 through 2007. Your second line might say, performed maintenance and lifted heavy components, based on personal recollection. A later line might say, sought treatment for back symptoms, with the date taken from a medical record. Notice the wording. It does not pretend an approximate date is exact. It does not turn a memory into an official document. It shows where each fact came from.
And here is the discipline that matters. Do not let a blank space bully you into inventing an answer. If the date is approximate, say approximate. If the event is uncertain, say uncertain. If you do not know whether a particular exposure occurred, write that it needs verification. A careful timeline is not supposed to sound perfect. It is supposed to be honest enough to show what is known, what is remembered, and what still needs to be checked. As you build the timeline, look for changes and gaps. Was there a new assignment before the duties changed? Was there training before a different work environment? Is there a separation examination or later medical visit that helps establish timing? Did symptoms begin during service, after service, or at a point you cannot currently identify? Did they affect work, sleep, movement, concentration, or ordinary activities? These are organizing questions, not conclusions.
Also include the years after military service. Post-service work, injuries, treatment, medical conditions, and other life circumstances can be part of the complete history. Including them does not weaken your story. It makes the timeline more accurate. A responsible review does not hide information because it feels inconvenient, and it does not exaggerate information because a stronger sounding version feels more persuasive. It puts the whole sequence on the table.
A few mistakes come up again and again. The first is treating an MOS as a complete description of every duty. The second is treating a deployment location as proof of a specific exposure or incident without checking the records. The third is treating an award as evidence of a diagnosis. The fourth is using confident language where the evidence is uncertain. I was assigned there during this period is different from this definitely caused my condition. The fifth is ignoring a record that seems to conflict with your memory. If 2 documents do not line up, preserve both and mark the difference for review.
When something is confusing, turn the confusion into a focused question. You might ask an accredited representative, what does this code appear to identify? Does this document establish an assignment, a date, or a duty? What additional record might clarify the timeline? What medical documentation is relevant to the current condition? If the issue involves a decision, review option, or deadline, ask a VA-accredited Veteran Service Organization, claims agent, or attorney to explain the current rules and how they may apply to your circumstances. You are not trying to make a document say more than it says. You are trying to understand what it contributes.
You can make the review easier by keeping 3 groups of files. Put personnel records together, separation documents, assignments, training, evaluations, and awards. Keep medical records in a separate group, organized by provider or date when possible. Then keep your own timeline and questions in a third file. If a document contains an abbreviation or code you do not recognize, mark it for follow-up instead of guessing. If 2 records appear to conflict, keep the originals unchanged and write your own note about the conflict. Organize, verify, execute. That order matters.
Let's bring the lesson back to that old personnel record. Your MOS, duty assignment, deployment history, training, awards, evaluations, and separation documents can help establish the setting and timeline of your service. They may explain duties or circumstances that deserve further review, but context is not the same as medical connection, and no single personnel document guarantees a claim result. The useful question is not, can I make this record prove everything? It is, what does this record honestly add to the picture?
Before the next episode, choose one personnel record. It could be a separation document, an assignment record, a training record, or a performance evaluation. Write 3 lines. This document confirms, I personally remember, and I still need to verify. Add the date or date range for each line when you can. Then note any related medical information only when you can identify and source. Do not add a medical conclusion. Just create one honest, fact-based timeline entry. 1 step, 1 record, 1 mission.
Thanks for listening to the Veteran Benefits Reset podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a clearer way to review military personnel records and one practical step you can take toward getting organized. Remember, this is an independent educational resource. It is not legal or medical advice, and it does not replace guidance from a VA-accredited veteran service organization, claims agent, or attorney. Verify current information through official VA resources and seek accredited guidance when appropriate. If you found this episode helpful, follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with another veteran, family member, or caregiver who could benefit. Download your free 7-step Veteran Benefits Reset Guide at vetbizmedia.com/veteran7. Your service did not expire. Your story is still worth reviewing. Take the next responsible step.